So, how does a single street crime explode into a police station being set on fire? It's a heck of a question, right? Today, we're going to break down the chain of events in Swindon, looking at how one single incident triggered this incredible cascade of fear, protest, and ultimately violence. Okay, let's dive in. And this quote right here gets to the absolute heart of what we're talking about. The things that happened in Swindon weren't just random, isolated explosions of anger. You really have to think of them like a series of dominoes, each one knocking over the next in a sequence that's actually predictable and pretty troubling. All right, so every chain has a beginning. Every story has a starting point. Let's start with the one incident that acted as the spark for absolutely everything that came after it. Now, what's so striking about this is just how public and blatant the initial event was. We're talking 9 p.m. in Swindon. A 17-year-old girl is grabbed and literally dragged across a busy street. This wasn't hidden away in some dark alley. It was right there, out in the open. And it was only stopped because ordinary people, members of the public, ran in to help. And this is where the story starts to get, well, a lot more complicated. It turns out the suspect who was identified was an asylum seeker, someone who had already been convicted for illegally entering the country. But he was out, still in the community. And that one fact would become a massive factor in how the public reacted to all of this. Okay, so let's build on that. Because a single crime, no matter how shocking it is, doesn't usually lead to a full-blown riot. But in Swindon, that spark we talked about, well, it landed on some very, very dry tinder. You see, the community was already living in this climate of fear. You have to understand, for the people living there, this didn't feel random at all. For weeks, there had been this rising tension. You hear about girls being followed, women being confronted. There were even other times the public had to step in. So this incident, it wasn't the start of the fear. It was the confirmation of it. It felt like a warning sign that the authorities just weren't listening to. And this all boils down to one absolutely critical thing: a total breakdown of trust. I mean, when people found out the suspect was already known to the system but was still on the street, it created this powerful belief that the official systems were failing, that they couldn't manage the risk, and that their safety just wasn't guaranteed anymore. And this quote just nails what happens next. People felt like their worries were being ignored, like their fear had no official place to go. So it didn't just go away, it spilled out onto the streets. People felt like they had to do something themselves. So now we get to the point where things really start to spiral. We're going to trace how a gathering of concerned citizens transformed step by step into a direct and violent clash with the police. I mean, just look at the contrast here. It's like night and day. Early in the afternoon, the vibe was about people talking, sharing their frustration. It was like a pressure valve releasing. But after 4:30 p.m., the whole dynamic just flipped. Police vans show up, officers form lines, shields lock together, batons come out. The whole atmosphere shifted from a public gathering to a tense standoff. And you can almost see it happening in slow motion. First, there's a police push and some arrests. That just makes the crowd angrier and pulls more people in. Then, the megaphone isn't for talking anymore. It's just for shouting commands, for control. As the sun goes down, the mood darkens right along with it. The police helmets go on, and then finally, things start getting thrown. Fireworks appear, but they aren't being aimed at the sky. They're aimed at the police. Each step just locked everyone in tighter. Okay, so at this point, there's no going back. The situation has hit its tipping point. This is the moment where confrontation turns into outright destruction, and a symbolic line is crossed for good. The climax of the entire night can really be summed up with this one single, stark image. A police station, the very building meant to represent order and the rule of law, was on fire. And make no mistake, that target was chosen for a reason. This wasn't some random building. By attacking the police station and the police cars nearby, the crowd was going after the most visible symbols of the very authority they felt had completely failed them. Windows were smashed, fires were set, cars were torched. This quote just says it all, doesn't it? That breakdown of trust, the fear, the anger, it wasn't just a feeling anymore. It was now a physical, visible reality, with flames literally lighting up the night sky. So you might be thinking, okay, that's one really bad night in one town, but why does it matter in the bigger picture? Well, in this last part, we're going to look at the source's argument that this wasn't just about Swindon at all. This is about a repeatable pattern. And here is the big idea, the main takeaway from all of this. We tend to look at the riot, the disorder, and think that's the problem. But the source here argues that's looking at it completely backwards. The disorder isn't the start of the problem. It's the final explosive result of pressure that's been quietly building for a very, very long time. The source has a name for this: system strain. And it's not about one huge disaster. Think of it more like a slow leak, a series of small but repeated failures, warnings that go unanswered, and no clear, visible action from the people in charge. Public confidence just slowly drains away, long before the night of the fire. And once that strain is there, you get this predictable chain reaction. It starts with a shocking event that gets everyone's attention. That sparks widespread public fear. When the official response feels too slow or just not enough, that fear turns into pressure on the streets, people gathering to make sure they're heard. And from there, as we saw in Swindon, it can all escalate into confrontation. The point is, this isn't a one-off, it's a pattern. And here's the real scary part, the final warning in all of this. If this pattern, this sequence, isn't broken, instability starts to feel normal. Society stops being shocked by these events. Disruption just becomes familiar. And the threshold for what it takes to trigger the next incident gets lower and lower. And so we end right here with this crucial question, because understanding the chain of consequences in Swindon is one thing, but the real challenge, the question we're all left with, is what happens next? And how do you stop this pattern from repeating itself?